Well, Happy New Year, everyone. I hope your New Year's Eve was exciting and uneventful. So, I spent my New Year's Eve in the morning. I finally finished it. My Filet Puppy Dog Blanket and pattern is all ready to go. And I have the listing. It's up on Etsy and available for anyone who wants to make this cute little puppy dog blanket. Well, it's not so little. I did use a DK weight yarn and a 4mm hook, and my blanket ended up being 34 inches wide and 42 inches long. So if you wanted it to be bigger, you just use worsted weight and a bigger hook, and you would end up with like a full-sized throw. But I think it turned out so cute. Now, it's this really pretty sage green, which is not showing up that well on camera. But I am excited to have it finished. So that is no longer a UFO. It is a completed project, with the exception of working in my two ends. And it's done. That is, my plate is starting to clear up. And then this morning, when I got up, after a very late night, I didn't go anywhere and do anything. I stayed home, which is what we always do on New Year's Eve. You know, it's amateur night, and people that don't normally drink tend to drink a little heavier. So we stay home where it's safe. But I have these very, how would you say, party type neighbors that were shooting off fireworks for a good part of the evening. And then of course at midnight, the big ones go off. And poor little Toby, he was so freaked out last night. He needed a lot of comforting. That noise really got to him. But in between waiting, I finished the filet, and then I still needed that final temperature to be able to do the last row on my temperature blanket. In between waiting, I decided to treat myself to a few plushies because I haven't done any all week. I have been concentrating on finishing that filet blanket and staying on top of the temperature blankets. I got one side, the joining side of the birth year, like border piece done so that it's ready to go once I get one side of the border piece on my current year done. Then I can attach the two and do the whole outside border. So exciting, right? I will never be so happy to finish a project as I will be to finish this one. And honestly, if I hadn't been posting on YouTube about it, that's probably a phone solicitor. So as I was saying, if I hadn't been posting on YouTube, I probably would have gave up months ago and never picked it up again. And it would have been one of those things that just gets packed away, and years from now, I'd be wondering why on earth did I ever do that? But anyhow, last time we spoke, I told you I bought a couple of pattern bundles, and I showed you the dragon, one of the dragons out of the bundle of 4 dragons. So last night, as I was treating myself to being able to do some plushies, I did one of the others that came in the other bundle I bought. Now that bundle it's a cat, a bunny, and a bear. Well, I decided to do the bunny because I've only done one rabbit, and it was just basic, simple. It was a freebie pattern. It wasn't, nothing special about it. So this is the little bunny. And the nice thing about this and the next two that I'm going to show you all came out of my basket full of partially used skein. So I did not have to open a new skein of yarn. So that was a huge plus. That made me feel really good that I was able to use some up. Now, normally when I work with Parfait Chunky, I use a 5mm hook. But because I did the white, and I'm still trying to use up some of that white that, you know, they didn't put all the fluff on the string, I dropped down to a 4.5mm on this one. And this was an interesting little pattern. You make your legs and your arms, and they get crocheted in, or it gives you the option to use joints. Now, I've been looking into the doll joints, and I haven't gotten any yet, but I want to try it. So because I didn't have it, I chose for the option that it gives to just crochet them in. So you make your arms and your legs, and then you start on the body. And it has this nice little tail back here. And instead of that being a bobble stitch, it's a popcorn stitch, which I was like, oh, I like doing this better than a bobble anyways. But that was a nice little change. And it works up, you know, you attach your legs, you attach your arms, and then the head is also worked onto the body, so you don't have to sew that together. The only sewing was attaching the ears. So that made for a nice pattern. Now, because I did white, it looked pretty bland. So I added a little belly button and gave it a bow just to add some color and a little bit of blushed cheeks. Now I went with bigger eyes than what the pattern called for because I did not have the size that it said. And my next closest size besides the 16mm, it would have been smaller, and it just didn't look right. So we have this little bunny, and I kept thinking, shouldn't it have whiskers? I don't know. Rabbits have whiskers, don't they? I don't know. I think it turned out cute. You know, it's kind of small, but, and it wasn't like super time consuming, especially for being the first time that I made it. It did take me a little while because I was watching, what was I watching? I think I was watching SVU, Law & Order SVU, and it was like the last episodes of season 24, and the way they ended it, hopefully they're coming back with another season. I'm hoping that this year they didn't have any last year they didn't have any because of the whole writers and actors strike and all that. Actually, none of the shows that I like that are what you would call current shows, there was nothing new for the whole year. Minor little interruption there, and I forgot what I was saying, but I think I was talking about SVU. And yeah, so I am totally 100% current on that program. So I kind of got the impression that they might be ending it because a lot of the regular characters have left the show. But anyhow, so I think I went through 2 episodes and I finished this. You know, it was the first time doing it, didn't get 100% of my attention, and I think she turned out pretty sweet. So then, in case you didn't know, there's a new movie that hit the theaters on December 22nd called Migration. And from what I could tell from the preview, it looks like it's about a family of mallard ducks. So, you know, I had to make a mallard duck. And again, this all came from my partial bin. I didn't have to open any new yarn. And I know I've shown this before, but it's such a cute pattern. I just love this pattern. So we got the little mallard. Now, I don't know the names of the characters in the show because I haven't seen it. I just watched the preview. But I think because of that movie, mallards are going to be very popular. So I had also shown you last time that I did one of the little mini birds in a mallard, but a bigger pattern, and it had bobble stitches for the wings. And I told you I prefer the other style wing. And I was like, you know, it's a pretty easy pattern to adjust yourself. You could make it bigger or smaller. Big, you know, you're just working in the rounds and making like a like a log shape. So again, using the stuff that was in my partial skeins in that basket, I did this mallard. And I did the kind of wings that I liked. I did the bobble stitches for the feet, but I tried to give it a little tail. I think that if I make another one like this, I will leave the tail off. Yeah, it just doesn't quite look right. Looks like a little puppy dog tail or something. But I did my increases. I started with 6. And I did my increases up to 30 and then started going, you know, rounds with no increases to make the tubular shape. So I did 10 rows of the peacock, 2 rows of the white, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows of the teddy bear where I added the feet. And then I did back loop only to make the bottom. I did back loop only to make the bottom flatter and started doing my decreases and then closed up the bottom. And he sits perfect, like perfect. Hang on, one of the cats is going crazy. Sometimes. Yeah, so these are pretty easy to figure out. I mean, it's just a basic shape, and I think it turned out pretty cute considering I don't care for the tail. So I would leave the tail off. And then to figure out the placement of the arms, it was like do 8 singles, in the 9th one make the arm. And then I think it was 13, make the arm, and then 7 brought me back around to the back, and that centered it pretty well. I actually had to draw myself a little diagram to figure it out because, you know, math, sometimes math just is hard. And being the end of the year, math was really, really hard. So this is what I have been up to. Only 3 little plushies, and it was a treat because I really, really, really wanted to clear my plate from 2023 projects, and I am almost done. So I really think within the next couple of days, I will be completed, totally done with that temperature blanket, and I can move on to other things. I've also been practicing the Tunisian. You know, it's kind of like work a little bit on this, set it aside, and then pick up the Tunisian and work on that for a little while, set it aside, and then pick back up the other one just to, you know, break up the monotony with it. But let me show you what I did. So the yarn that I want to use with the Tunisian for Tony's project, darn cat, it's a DK weight. So I was practicing a little bit with the DK yarn. Hold on, I gotta put a stitch marker in this since he pulled my hook out so I don't lose my stitch. So I was practicing with the DK just because I wanted to see like the size difference. And I used this anti-pilling DK colors from Premier Yarns in the color of Wisteria. It's kind of got like blues and purples. This is all that's left, and look, I'm running into a funky part on the skein there. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of this kind of yarn. Now this is nice. It's silky smooth. It's nice to, I mean, it has a great feel. It's easy to work with. But when I say I'm not a fan of the colors, it's where, you know, it changes. like does these blocks. So it's like too abrupt of a change. I like more of a smoother transition instead of the color change being so abrupt. Okay, so I've been playing with the same one I showed you last time, where it's got the honeycomb stitch on the edge and then the regular linen stitch. And I'm not sure how many rows I have, but I could see that it would take a whole lot more to get, like, to meet her size. You know, like this is supposed to be 42 inches long on this border, but it doesn't have much going in that direction. So, you know, like it's not very wide yet. And I think it said do 117 rows before you start the next honeycomb border. And I am pretty sure I have more than 50 rows here. Now I did catch myself when it was too late, because I tried like to fix a stitch on the other one I was practicing with and ended up having to pull the whole thing out because I dropped stitches and I could not figure out how to put it back together. So I just went with it, but I caught myself not doing the increase on a few of the rows. So it's not quite as wide as it should be. But for just playing around and trying to learn the stitch before I bust out the new yarn, I think I'm doing fairly decent. Plus, I broke out some, what do you call it, like kitchen cotton, and tried a couple of other stitches. Made a couple of dishcloths, but I can't show you those because I already gave them away when we went over to Lori's house on the 29th. I took those over because she loves the crocheted and knitted dishcloths. And since it was new, Tunisian for me, and I was being a show off, I took them over and gave them to her. But I tried a couple. Now the cotton is not the easiest thing to work with, not that kind of cotton, because it like really split. And I was using a like a long straight hook. And my YouTube friend Nick had sent me some Tunisian hooks that came with the cords on them. And that's what I was using on my other practice sample. And I was extremely awkward. So I went back to Tony's channel and watched a couple of her hook review videos. And in both of those videos, the one that she recommends for beginners is the Clover set. And when she would talk about her opinion on the hooks, and the one thing that always got her was the cord on the hook, like how awkward and just weird some of them are. But on her latest hook review video, I can't even tell you how many different hooks that she reviewed, but it was a lot. And the only one that she gave a 10 out of 10 hook rating was the Clover hooks. So I went to check them out, and at Michael's, $169. And they don't do 50% off coupons that I'm aware of anymore. You could get a 20% off coupon, but 20% off of $169.99 is not enough. I couldn't bring myself to do that, because I don't know yet that I would stick with this style of crochet. I'm liking it so far with my playing, but I don't know that I would stick with it. So I'm totally am not willing to spend over $100 on a set of hooks. So I checked Amazon, And they had the same hooks on sale for $70. And I'm like, I could deal with $70 if I knew I was going to continue to do this. So $70 was still a bit steep for me. However, I got a gift card for Christmas for $25 for an Amazon. And plus I had 40 some dollars, I want to say like $48 in reward points. So I applied the gift card and the award points, and I paid a whopping $6.99 for a set of the Clover hooks. And I can already tell you that this cord is a whole lot easier to work with. And that's only being able to compare to one other type. I have nothing else to compare to. And I'm sure there are probably others out there that might even be better. I am not a huge fan of wood hooks, but these are nice and smooth. And the yarn hasn't been snagging on it. Now the other set that Nick had given me, once I figured out where to find the size of the hook on the hook, there was one that had like a little snag, little burr on the thing. So I just took out a emery board and filed it nice and smooth so it would stop snagging the yarn. And then other than the cable, they worked perfectly fine. And I say other than the cable, it's only because I'm not used to working with something like that. But that is what I have been doing. I'm not making any plans until my temperature blanket is done. I have a few ideas of things that I want to do other than playing with the plushies. I actually don't like to plan too far ahead because then I just get disappointed if things just don't come together the way I think that they should come together. But that's just a me thing. I just, I like instant gratification. That's why these appeal to me so much, the plushies, because it's something that I can sit down and I could make 1 or 2 or 3 or 10, depending on what it is, a day, and feel like I've accomplished something, like I got something done. But then you have the problem of what are you going to do with them all? Hence, going to markets. So, yeah. Now, since my last market, I haven't made very many plushies. I have been trying to, 1, give my hands a break, and 2, finish up these other projects to clear my plate. So, my plate is getting less and less full by the day. And on that note, I'm going to say ta-ta. I'm going to say goodbye. And we'll see you in the next video. But in the meantime, you can check out this video right over here.